Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Asato ma sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityorma mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Lord Krishna, the spiritual teacher of the world, who was the bliss of Devaki, who killed the demons Kamsa and Chanura, who were tormenting the people. Let us pray to the Lord to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have just started chapter 1, the chapter 2, the Yoga of Wisdom. Lord Krishna gives the most sublime teaching in this second chapter. So the background is very clear. Arjuna is facing the enemies in the battlefield, and situation has come that he should fight. But suddenly his mind became confused on account of some weakness, and he lost control over himself. And in that utter desperation, he just fell down at the feet of Lord Krishna, expressing his inability to fight. One greatness of Arjuna is that he surrendered completely to Shri Krishna and listened to him most attentively, all his instructions, and applied it properly. Then he could face the battle and came out of this morbid situation. Arjuna was a renowned warrior, reputed to strike terror in the minds of his enemies on any battlefield. Such a person is himself strangely overtaken by misplaced sympathy and despondency in the battlefield at Kurukshetra. His mind is in considerable turmoil. His eyes are filled with tears. Observing this, the Lord reprimands Arjuna. You must know, Lord Krishna didn't want war. He tried his best to stop it, but it could not be done because the fate created by Duryodhana was so strong that war became inevitable. Duryodhana's jealousy and hatred did not want any kind of peace. He wanted to demonstrate his strength. He just wanted to annihilate all the Pandavas. So jealousy and hatred are the cause of this great war. All of us in this world are relentlessly facing the war situation because of bad nature, bad samskaras, neglecting the spiritual values, not knowing exactly what to do and what not to do. We have entered into battlefield, trying to fight, not knowing the technique, unintelligently we are facing the battle in our day-to-day life. But if a person really seriously thinks calmly how to overcome this terrible situation of conflicts, the way is given by Lord Krishna. All the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita have tremendous spiritual significance for every one of us. He has given the great ideal to follow. Practice, practice, practice. That is what is meant. So, educating ourselves very important. Unless we are properly educated, you can't dispel the darkness of ignorance. As long as you are in ignorance, you cannot avoid suffering or misery. Arjun was in this terrible condition. War is nothing new to Arjun. He had seen several battles and won all of them. Now he is standing on yet another battlefield where, as usual, dharma and adharma, good and evil, are confronting each other. Instead of striking terror in the minds of the evil forces, Arjuna is seriously thinking of retreating from the battlefield. Despair of this nature is totally out of place on a battlefield. This is neither the place nor the time for such faint-hearted thinking. It's totally unworthy of a reputed hero and a Kshatriya prince like Arjuna. So Lord Krishna says, why are you having cold feet at this critical juncture? Don't you know that it is bad for a Kshatriya nobleman to run away from a battlefield, no matter for what reason? Not fighting this battle would amount to dereliction of duty. You are supposed to protect the law and order of your kingdom. Even if Arjuna considers himself as a down-to-earth and practical man of the world, running away from the battlefield gives him no advantage. On the other hand, this one act of infamy will wipe away all the name and fame that he so carefully and painstakingly built up over the years. Therefore Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, running away from the battlefield would destroy your name, your fame, and your credibility. People forget all your past noble and heroic exploits and would talk only about this one disgraceful incident for generations. They would refer to you as a great hero with a faint heart and a mighty warrior who ran away from the battlefield when the going got tough. Lord Krishna, who has been silent until now, he is deliberately reproaching Arjuna with carefully chosen words in order to make him see the consequences of his despair, confusion and faint-heartedness on the battlefield in all its tragic significance. These words are significantly devoid of sympathy. They are deliberately chosen to stir him up. Shri Krishna wants Arjuna to think. You are placed in a situation where you are supposed to act, not talk. And you have pulled me in too. What you are now saying does not reflect your culture and upbringing. Your action is not becoming of an Arya, a nobleman, who does what is to be done. Withdrawal from the battlefield now will give you neither fame nor heaven. How did you arrive at the conclusion that it would be sinful to fight this battle? What constitutes sin is known through Dharma Shastra, the spiritual texts describing the nature of Dharma. Dharma Shastra says that a soldier who runs away from the battlefield commits a sin. He will not better his lot here on earth, much less will he go to heaven. If you argue that you don't care for what happens after death, that you are a practical man who only wants a few years of prosperity and power on earth, even then, this kind of action will not help you. All the fame for which you have worked so assiduously will come to a naught because of this single action. Everyone will talk of you as a great warrior who ran away from the battlefield. You will be laughed at as a great archer with a coward's heart. They will forget that you are a mighty man and will only talk about in words that will sully my tongue were I to utter them. Shri Krishna continues to reprimand Arjuna. He said further, you are a reputed veteran of several battles. You are the fearless warrior who used to strike terror in the hearts of the greatest of warriors on any battlefield. Therefore I can't understand why you display this unmanliness. It is unbecoming for a Kshatriya prince to give in to emotional weakness, especially at this critical juncture. A battlefield is scarcely the place for you to yield to depression. You have come into this battlefield to uphold Dharma. It is your duty as a Kshatriya prince to stand up for Dharma and fight in support of Dharma. Therefore, come out of your despondency and fight. Lord Krishna wants Arjuna to fight, which is his duty. But Arjuna still has to wake up completely. He says, how can I fight with arrows in this battle against Bhishma, Drona, who deserve to be worshipped? Arjuna is keen to withdraw from the battlefield, and he explains his reasons why he wants to do that. He says, O Lord, you are talking as if I am afraid as if I am afraid to fight. I am not. I am not afraid. The problem is not fear at all. I am only saying that it is not right to fight this war. How can I hurt the two respected elders, Bhishma and Drona, with arrows? These are people who always followed Dharma. How can I destroy them and yet claim to be a champion of Dharma? Sorry. This is not my concept of Dharma. He addresses Krishna this way. Arjuna implies that Bhishma and Drona are neither Rakshasa nor enemies. One is a venerable Pitamaha who is universally revered as the oldest living Kaurava, and the other is a guru who taught Arjuna all the battle skills for which Arjuna is so famous. So Arjuna continues to say, I can't even talk harshly to them. Where is the question of my fighting them? These two elders or venerable deities, they are to be worshipped with flowers, and you are asking me to hurt them with sharp arrows? I am sorry, I can't do that. It is a dreadful sin to think of hurting or killing them. It is not at all right to think of destroying them. So by his statements, the cause of Arjuna's torment is clear. He knows very well that unless he killed Bhishma and Drona, there is no question of his winning this war. If he killed them, how can he be at peace with himself afterwards? The memory of this killing would be haunting him as long as he lives. How can such a victory ever give him happiness? So he says, O Lord, these persons are not mere acquaintances or relatives. They are pujarha, deserve to be worshipped. They are persons on whose laps I sat and from whom I gained all my skills and knowledge. How can I fight them? I can't shoot pointed arrows at them. They deserve flowers. You may ask, if they don't have any qualms about fighting you in the war, why should you have such tender feelings? I can only say, let them cast their lot with Duryodhana and fight against me. I would rather be killed by them than raise a hand against them. Arjuna continues to explain his reasons for withdrawing from the battlefield. He says, O Lord, Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya, they are most venerable persons, even if they are fighting in the army of Duryodhana. They are gurus and mahanubhavas. I feel that killing such noble and respected persons for any reason, much worse for kingdom and power, is a most reprehensible act which can never be justified. Their lives are too valuable to be sacrificed for paltry gains. You may say, if you don't kill them, you will not get back your kingdom. If you have no kingdom, how do you make a living? I see your point. But I am not prepared to kill these venerable deities for any reason, much less for a living. If I do not have a kingdom, it doesn't matter. If I don't have any other tangible means of support for myself, it doesn't matter. I am willing to live on bhiksha, begging. I know very well that it is dishonorable for a Kshatriya nobleman to live on alms. But if this is the only option left for me, I am perfectly willing to embrace this option. Even when I win the contested kingdom and wealth, this victory holds no pleasure for me, since it will be tainted by the bitter memory of the noble blood that would have been shed to win my kingdom and power. Brahmacharis and sannyasis take bhiksha. They take just required quantity of food from each family so that they are not a burden on anyone. So he will follow that path, taking bhiksha. Until now, Arjuna has been thinking only of the horror of killing Bhishma, Drona and others. Now he begins to think of the alternatives. His thoughts turn to the life of bhikshus who live a simple life for the pursuit of knowledge. They depend on bhiksha for satisfying their hunger. Any person committed to the pursuit of knowledge is generally supported by the society which values knowledge. Bhikshus or monks dedicate their life to the pursuit of the knowledge of self. We do not know even this, which is better for us. whether we should conquer them or they should conquer us. Those sons of Dhritarashtra stand right in front of us. After having killed whom we would not want to live. Every decision has consequences. If we do not like the expected consequences of a particular decision, we should not take that decision. Arjun feels that this war involves the destruction of all his relatives, friends and well-wishers, especially noble and venerable persons like Bhishma and Drona, which therefore spells evil and sin. Therefore, he doesn't like to engage in this war. But our likes and dislikes should not be the sole criterion for any decision. Dharma is much more important, especially for a Kshatriya prince. If waging war serves the purpose of Dharma, then a Kshatriya prince has no option but to decide in favor of waging the war, whether he likes the consequences of this decision or not. Thus the interest of Dharma should always override Arjun's self-interest. However, Arjun is not able to appreciate that fighting in support of Dharma is his highest priority. On the other hand, he believes that killing Bhishma and others for the sake of kingdom and power is adharma and a sin, to avoid which he wants to withdraw from the battlefield. Still working under this notion, Arjun says, assuming for a moment that I decide to fight, where is the guarantee that I would win? In this battle, the opponents also have many reputed warriors like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Ashwatthama, etc. The Kaurava army is larger than my army. Therefore, I think that the other side have also good prospects for victory. If my victory is not certain, and my gaining kingdom and power is not assured, then what is the sense in committing myself to this war and the destruction which it inevitably causes? What is the purpose of all the fighting, destruction and all round agony if the chances of success are not in my favor? Even if we assume that the odds favor my success in the battle, does all the destruction that it inevitably causes justify the decision in favor of the battle? For instance, I see all my relatives are standing in right before me on this battlefield. They will all be killed, almost certainly. A victory gained by killing all of them is not certainly a matter of rejoicing. It is a matter of great sorrow for me. It is not a victory, it is a defeat disguised as victory. Whether he is right or the Lord Krishna is right, Arjun feels that this is clearly a no-win situation for him. He can't possibly gain anything by fighting. So, Arjun is totally perplexed, overcome by faint-heartedness, confused about his duty. Arjun was asking Krishna which is better for him. He tells him, "O Krishna, please tell me that definitely. I am your disciple who has taken refuge in you. Please teach me." Because Arjun had tremendous faith and took shelter in Shri Krishna, he was saved from all dangers. Arjun feels that a victory gained by killing Bhishma, Drona and his friends and well-wishers is no victory. He would never feel happy at such a victory. Further, if this war is allowed to take place, there is lurking fear in his mind that the family, Kshatriya Kulam and age-old traditions would all be destroyed, leading to the intermingling of blood, which has many far-reaching consequences. On account of these two reasons, he says that a certain fear has taken hold of his usually fearless mind. A miser has been defined in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad as one who leaves this world without knowing the truth about himself. For he has not used the vast wealth of human intellect to inquire into the purpose of human life. Arjun, who has heard this word Shreyas used in this way, says, I have never made any real use of my intellect. When I have not been able to distinguish between even dharma and adharma, what to talk of the knowledge of what is most fundamental in life? I have not understood all this because I have been miserly in using my intellect. But now I am not going to miss my opportunity to learn. O Krishna, please be my Guru. I am your disciple. I surrender at your feet. Please bless me by teaching me that which is Shreyas. Lord Krishna had been a friend, philosopher and guide to Arjun all through his life. Now Arjun requests the Lord to be his teacher also. What is this Shreyas that Arjun seeks to know? Shreyas is not simply what is good for oneself, and it is generally interpreted to mean it is the ultimate goal that everyone seeks, knowingly or unknowingly. Things change with time. It is in the nature to change constantly. What is good today may not be good tomorrow. It's all relative. There is no such thing as a right action that remains right forever. What is right today may not be right tomorrow. It is the same thing with dharma too. Since there is no absolute right or absolute wrong in this relative world, a sense of dharma has to grow in a person. The person who understands dharma has to decide upon the action that is most appropriate to a given situation, just as a skilled driver knows how to negotiate any new traffic situation. While dharma is relative, Shreyas is not. Shreyas is absolute. Objects and situations may be different, but we all want to gain from every one of our achievements happiness, which is not relative. One who gains his absolute happiness attains nirvana. The impending war taught Arjun that in the relative world, any gain must also involve a loss. By fighting, he would gain his kingdom, but would lose his family. By fleeing the battlefield, he would save his loved ones, but he would be sacrificing his fame and his chance of gaining heaven after death. Seeing the limitations in both alternatives, Arjun realizes that he wants only Shreyas, the absolute gain that can't be achieved by mere action alone, no matter how righteous it may be. He realizes that he needs a Guru who will be able to explain to him what Shreyas is and how it is to be gained. So he requests Lord Krishna to be his Guru. That is a great turning point in Arjun's life. Under the tense conditions of the battlefield, where Arjun is confronted with the option of either killing his enemies or getting killed by his enemies, he begins to think about the profundity of life and pettiness of regarding people and things as my and mine. Man always wants something that he does not possess. He experiences sorrow if he does not get what he wants. Arjun at last recognizes the futility of trying to solve the fundamental problem of human want. He feels, even when kingdoms are won, there will always be more kingdoms to be won. How can one ever say, I have achieved everything I want to? I do not see how any achievements of an individual can cancel the sorrow which is a constant companion of the human heart. Arjun wants to get rid of his sorrow and be happy. Sorrow is not man's true nature. To feel happy is natural for him. If it is natural to feel happy, then happiness must surely lie within man. It does, But unfortunately, man does not know who he is, and therefore he does not know that happiness lies within himself. This confusion is universal because ignorance is universal. This confusion will disappear the instant you know who you are. You think that you are the body-mind complex, which is a physical entity. Physical entities change with time. They are in space-time dimension. You don't change. You are the awareness, and awareness never changes. The Vedanta gives a famous example of rope and snake. The rope does not change to become the snake. What changed to make you aware that it is only a rope and not a snake is your ignorance. There are only two things in creation: Kshetra, the object, and Kshetrajna, the subject, who is the knower of the object. Everything that you know is the object, the knower is the subject. You are the subject, the seer. You are not the object, the seen. You are not your body-mind complex. You are not even your ego. You are the self, Atman, which is the limitless, changeless, actionless and non-dual awareness. When you get freed from your ignorance, you will discover who you are. This knowledge is called Shreyas, which is what Arjuna wants to know. Then the Sanjaya says in the verse number 9, O king, having spoken thus to Lord Krishna and saying, I will not fight to Lord Krishna, Arjuna remained silent. Sanjaya tells Dhritarashtra that having prayed for guidance and instructions to Lord Krishna, Arjuna declares that he would not fight. Dhritarashtra now knows why Arjuna refuses to fight this war. Dhritarashtra now knows why Arjuna refused to fight this war. Arjuna is not willing to engage in battle, not only because of his unwillingness to hurt and kill Bhishma, Drona and other well-wishers, but also because he is not prepared to kill his cousins, who are the sons of Dhritarashtra. If there is anyone who can stop this war, even at this late stage, it is only the King Dhritarashtra. He could have stayed the war, but he does not. Then Sanjaya said, O King Dhritarashtra, as if smiling, Lord Krishna said the words to the sorrowful Arjuna, who was in the midst of the two armies. In the Upanishads, the body-mind complex and the self-in-body-mind complex are compared to the chariot and the owner of the chariot respectively. The senses are compared to the 5 wild horses that are tethered to the chariot. Buddhi, sitting in the driver's seat, holds the reins, which are compared to the mind, which controls the unruly senses. The wild horses always try to take the chariot, and the entity sitting inside, wherever their fancy takes them. The entity is but a helpless and hapless spectator in his own chariot, if he does not use his discrimination and control the wild horses when they try to take the chariot over forbidden and dangerous terrain. Conceptually, this is precisely what life in samsara represents. Standing between the forces of good and evil, which are always at loggerheads with each other, we move through life dangerously. To ensure victory for dharma, buddhi, intellect, should take charge of the reins and control the mind, and through the mind the senses. It should chart the course through life along the path of dharma, which is of course narrow and straight, until the ultimate destination is reached. Arjuna wants the Lord, who is sitting in the driving seat, to take charge. Now, starting from verse number 11, the teaching of Bhagavad Gita begins. Lord Krishna says to Arjun, Arjun, you are grieving for those who should not be grieved for, and at the same time you also speak words of wisdom. The wise do not grieve either for the dead or for the living. Arjun was confused about what is dharma and what is adharma. He was overwhelmed by sorrow at the depressing prospect of killing Bhishma and Drona amongst others. He requested the Lord to take him as his disciple. He surrendered to the Lord and asked for Shreyas. In the context of the Gita, Shreyas means moksha, which is self-knowledge. Arjun's sorrow is the subject matter of the first chapter. All of us are subject to sorrow, for lesser reasons even. Most of us therefore think that Arjun's sorrow is justified. The subject matter of the remainder of Gita is self-knowledge, which removes this sorrow. All the arguments that Arjun put forth are about the death of Bhishma, Drona and others. Death is a situation that definitely calls for grief in ordinary people. But Arjun is no ordinary person. Therefore the Lord tells Arjun, O Arjun, you grieve unnecessarily. Really, there is no legitimate basis for your sorrow. Sorrow, that is shoka, and a situation that causes shoka is shochya. A situation that doesn't cause sorrow is ashochya. Arjun spoke words of wisdom earlier like a pandit. He asked the Lord, for instance, how could one claim to be the champion of dharma if he destroys for the sake of his own kingdom and power the very people who follow dharma? The Lord says here, you speak words of wisdom like a pandit, and at the same time you grieve for a situation which the pandits think does not call for any grief. The pandits do not grieve for either the dead or the living. A pandit is a learned person. He is not merely a Shastra Jnani. He is also an Atma Jnani. The Atma Jnani knows that there are only two things in this world, Atma and what is not Atma. There is nothing else in the world. What is not Atma is called Anatma. You are the Atman. You are not the Anatman. The Atma Jnani is one who knows the Atman. If one knows the Atman, he also knows the Anatma, because what is not Atman is what is not Atman is only Anatma. The body is Anatma. It exists because Atma exists. Anatma ceases to exist, but Atma still exists. In the darkness of the night, for instance, one may mistake a rope for the snake. The snake exists because the rope exists. The snake disappears, but the rope still exists. The existence of the snake depends on the existence of the rope. But the converse is not true. The rope exists where the snake exists or not. Whether the rope exists, whether the snake exists or not. If at all, one of these two, Atma or the Anatma, is causing grief to Arjun. Which one? The Pandit knows that what is born is sure to die one day or the other. The body alone is born. Atma is not born. Therefore what dies is the body. It has to die one day or the other. The Pandit knows that grief is not going to stop the death of the body. Its death is certain. Dying is the destiny of all bodies. Therefore, it is futile to lament over the death of a body. There is no death for the Atman, because Atman is not born. A person is his Atman and not his body. Those who have gone are gone. They may not come back into your life, but they are not dead. Arjuna is unable to discriminate between what is Atma and what is Anatma. The Atma always exists even after the body dies. There is no non-existence to the Atma. Death of the Atma is, therefore, also not a cause for sorrow for the Pandit, because he knows that there is no death for the Atma. Thus Arjuna's grief is illegitimate. It is caused by ignorance of what is Atma and what is Anatma. Those who have this knowledge do not grieve over the situation that is presently causing grief to Arjuna. Therefore, the Pandit who is an Atma Jnani never grieves. He never grieves for the dead or for the living. Hence the Lord says to Arjuna, you don't seem to understand the difference between the body and the Atman. You speak like a Pandit who uses his buddhi, but you think and act like an ignorant person who is robbed of his discrimination. This is the beginning of the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. Neither the Atman nor the Anatman should be the source of sorrow to man. Therefore, grief is never legitimate. A problem can only be solved if it is legitimate. The problem of the rope, which is seen as a snake, cannot be solved by throwing a stone at it or beating it with a stick. There is no snake there, it is only a rope, which is being illegitimately apprehended as a snake. The snake and the fright caused by it will go away the moment we see it as a rope. Thus, one cannot solve an illegitimate problem by action, it can only be solved by knowledge. Only a legitimate problem can be solved by action. Everyone suffers from a sense of limitation. Atma has no limitations, it is limitless. We can identify three types of limitations: sorrow, time and ignorance. These three limitations do not apply to the Atma, they apply only to the body. Therefore, they are illegitimate and consequently they are ashochya, which are matters that do not warrant grief. Hence the Lord says that Arjuna's problem, which is grief, is illegitimate. If someone makes you see that a given problem does not really exist, you get released from it. The knowledge that these three limitations do not really exist for you frees you from those three limitations. That knowledge is called Sankhya, that which is seen clearly. Arjuna seeks Shreyas. The Lord tells Arjuna that what he seeks does not exist outside himself. He says, Arjuna, you seek Shreyas, which is the freedom from limitations. You want this freedom because you do not know that you already have this freedom. You already have achieved it. You need not do anything to remove your sorrow because it was never there. You need not do anything to remove the snake from the rope because it was never there. Arjuna's problem of being illegitimate cannot be solved by action. It can only be solved by knowledge, knowledge of the self. This knowledge is the subject matter of this chapter. Sankhya is Atma Jnanam. When Atma Jnanam is pursued for gaining moksha, it becomes a yoga. So this chapter is called Sankhya Yoga. So let us stop here. In the next class we shall start verse number 12. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of his bliss, tasting his nectar at every step, bathing in his name that both for very serves. Various are thy names, O Lord. In each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the ties of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this worldly fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as dust beneath thy feet. How I long for the day When an instant's separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy, may the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied, for he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.